Well, hello, my beautiful book besties. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Liv if you're new here, and we are going to be doing a pretty decent book unhaul today. Now you might be asking, what in the world sparked this idea? Why am I unhauling a large amount of books once again? But when I did a bookshelf organization video, I think in the summer of last year, I finally had my shelves in my office space in a place where there was no books on the floor, there were no books stashed in random places, everything had a place on a shelf, and now we're in a position once again where that is not a thing. I have been accumulating books like crazy this year, and that was not my intention at all, but I've been getting so many books from publishers. I recently went on a girls trip and we bought books, of course, and I was given some books, and so we are just accumulating books so fast this year. Yes, I have been way more intentional in my actual book buying, but for some reason books just stack up so quickly. I feel like of all hobbies anybody could have, books just take up space so quickly, and I get so overstimulated and overwhelmed when there is just stacks on stacks of things everywhere. Not only that, but I've been looking at my shelves here and there lately, and there are just some books that I don't think I'm ever gonna return to, especially fantasy series, but otherwise there really is no rhyme or reason to this unhaul. I'll kind of give you a brief idea why I'm getting rid of it, but I will say all of these books are going to end up on Pango Books very, very cheap. All of that to say, I have about 30 plus books I'm going to be unhauling in this video, starting with one of my newest Fairy Loot editions that I got. We have Olivia Blake's Gifted and Talented, and while I am very interested in this book, I will say this edition personally for me is not it. It reminds me of something like from Lisa Frank, or it reminds me of a zebra. Like, yeah, it's cool and I really love the character artwork inside, but honestly to me this does not feel like Olivia Blake at all. She typically leans more towards like neutral colors, and I was just very confused when I got this in the mail. I was like, wait, I don't know, for whatever reason this does not feel like Olivia Blake, but maybe one of you out there has been searching for this edition, and if you are, I will happily sell this to you. I really do love her writing from the very little that I have read, but this edition just does not stand out to me. I don't feel the need to own this. And then we have two fantasy series that kind of pains me to get rid of, but I have a very nostalgic pull towards these series because these series is what really got me back into reading, specifically Leigh Bardugo and King of Scars. So I have not read this or Rule of Wolves, and I don't know if I'm ever going to come back to it at this point because I read Shadow and Bone so long ago. They also canceled the Netflix show, and so now I can't even get a refresher that way. I do remember we all loved and fell in love with Nikolai, but I don't know why. It has been probably like 4 or 5 years since I read anything from Leigh Bardugo. I would much rather just read her newer gothic stuff than kind of go back into this world. As much as I love it, and I absolutely love Six of Crows, I just don't feel the need to own this. Next we have Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. This is book 2 in the Diviner series, I believe. I read the first one and was just appalled with how much I loved it, especially the audiobook. I still recommend that book to this day. It's spooky, it's historical, it's also got a really good mystery to it, and I loved the full cast of characters, and I really loved our main character. But again, it's been so long since I've read that book, and I'd have to reread that book to start this, and I think they even have new covers now. I don't even know. I think Libba Bray just came out with a new book, which I kind of want to try, but I feel like she's taking more of like a sci-fi dystopian route. I have gravitated to it multiple times. I still think about it, but again, I don't even think I own the first one, so I don't feel the need to own this one. Another author that I do still want to try, I am not going to write her off, is Chloe Gong. These Violent Delights, I think I read 20 pages of at some point when this first came out, and I think it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but obviously in a fantasy world, and I've heard her writing and her stories are very cutthroat, and they're kind of like low on the romance, which does sound like my thing, but I'm just tired of seeing this book on my shelves, and she's not like a top priority author for me, at least not currently. I'm sure I would love anything that she writes, but for now I'm just not as interested anymore. Now I might be speaking way too soon about this next series, but I don't think I'm going to enjoy it or like it. Maybe I would, but again, it's so backlisted at this point. Well, maybe not super backlisted. I think this series was completed a couple years ago, maybe 2. It is The Jade City by Fonda Lee, and I just don't know, something about this is super intimidating to me. me. I feel like I'm really loving young adult or new adult fantasy, at least right now. I don't feel the need to own this series. I have had it, I think, since it came out. It is gonna go bye-bye for now. Another author that I promise I have not written off, I'm keeping Uprooted and Spinning Silver, but I am going to get rid of Deadly Education, at least for now. I feel like I could really like this book because I do enjoy dark academia. I think it's a duology or a trilogy, but again, a lot of these books are just really backlisted and I don't feel the need to own them. But again, if you guys can change my opinion in the comments, please do. Please tell me like, yeah, this is an Olivia book, you should definitely keep it, and I'll keep it. But I think I would rather like rebuy this later at some point when I'm finally ready to read it. This next book, City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaefer. This I think is a duology or trilogy now. I was very excited for this because it sounds really spooky, but the more that I have flipped the pages and kind of researched this book, I think it's gonna be a little bit too demonic or too scary for me. I don't know, you guys, I don't really read horror. I feel like I like reading cozy fall. Like even the cover, it's definitely giving scares. I think it's about two sisters where their nightmares become a reality. One sister has to save another. I don't know. Something about it just seems a little bit too dark for me. I'm not gonna lie to you. This next book was a sprayed edge cover buy, and this is when kind of like sprayed edges were becoming a thing for everything. And for some reason, To Kill a Shadow by Catherine Quinn, these sprayed edges just sold me for some reason. I feel like I was also in one of those moods where I was tired of seeing all of the popular romantasy books and I hadn't seen anyone read this, so I was like, well, let me pick up something that I feel like maybe could be a hidden gem that isn't so popular. You know when you get in that mood where you're just like, ugh, I'm tired of seeing the same books? This is how I felt when I picked this up, and I still have not read it, so I feel like that's a sign I should just go ahead and get rid of it. I honestly have not seen a single person pick this up. Now that does not necessarily mean a bad thing, but I feel like when I don't hear anything at all, I'm not very motivated to pick a book up. There are so many romantasy coming out this year that I would rather get to. At this point in time, I just have way more other books to read. Next I have The Witches of Bone Hill by Ava Morgan. I think she's come out with one or two other books since this one, but I think this is more like practical magic vibes. I think it's about sisters who inherit like this estate. I'm not sure how much magic is actually in this book, but just from the synopsis I was getting more contemporary vibes. There's like a family secret and some type of drama, and I feel like that's not just my vibe. If I want witchy, I want something like a kitchen or like cozy witch or some sort of cottagecore witch. If you're the person that's more into contemporary stories, maybe chick lit or something like that, this would be for you. But personally, I just get the vibe that maybe it wouldn't be my favorite. Next we have a book that a publisher sent me that I still would love to read, and I'm like debating if I want to unhaul it, but again, if it's not on my immediate TBR, it's just gonna go to the library or to one of you guys. That is A Short Walk Through a Wide World by Douglas Westerbeek. This book I've heard is like Addie LaRue, which makes me very intrigued. But I will say it also makes me very scared because to fill Addie LaRue's shoes, those are some big shoes to fill, and when people compare stuff to some of my favorite books of all time like Hunger Games and Harry Potter, it's kind of off-putting to me in a way, even though you think I would love those things. But I feel like you guys kind of know what I'm saying, where if this is too close to Addie LaRue, I'm just not gonna love it. Maybe at some point when I'm really missing Addie LaRue, I'll pick this up, but I could also just reread Addie LaRue. Next I have The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. I really enjoyed this book when I read it. I think I gave it 4.5, 5 stars. I read it literally in one sitting on a rainy day at our house that we used to live in previous to this one, and I have very fond memories of this book and discovering this author. But since then it's been a little bit of a hit or miss with me and Shay Earnshaw. I do have her newest book, The Beautiful Maddening, and it sounds really good, but I will say her other book previous to that, I don't even remember what it's called, I DNF'd it. I will continue to read any adult books that she puts out, but her YA, I don't know. This could have just been like a one-hit wonder. You are looking for something that's witchy, that's really good, definitely read this one. Another book that I really wanted, honestly just because the cover is really pretty, is Draw Down the Moon by PC Cast and Kristen Cast, but I love this cover. I was kind of expecting this to be one of those books that goes viral just because it sounds really good. It's a mystical school, a mysterious death, a magical romance. And I may read this at some point in time, but again, there are so many like romantasy, academic type of fantasy out there, and this one just isn't high on the list. Another romantasy that I've heard was supposed to be like Beauty and the Beast kind of is The Wren and the Holly Library by K.A. Lindy or Lind. This book is beautiful. Honestly, it was a cover buy for me. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is just absolutely stunning, and it has a library. Like, who doesn't love a book within a book type of story? Again, this is supposed to be like a Beauty and the Beast retelling that also meets Six of Crows, but I started this and I read 50 pages. I wasn't extremely invested. I didn't love like the main male lead. I need to know from one of you out there that has read this if I should keep it and if I should prioritize it, because it could end up being like one of my favorite books of the year. I don't know. This is my issue with unhauling, is I'm scared that I'm going to unhaul a book I could really love, but then I have to remind myself I can get it from the library. And the last fantasy book I have here is Ferryman by Claire McFall. Kendall is the one that picked this book out for me, and I was supposed to read it for a vlog probably 2 or 3 years ago. Have I read it? No, but it does sound extremely interesting. I've heard the romance is great, and this is also a very short book, and I just don't know if this is going to be anything ultra unique or special, so I think I'm going to put it down for now. And maybe Kendall, if in the next couple of years you're still pushing me to read this, I promise I will actually read it. Next, I have just 4 romance books that I'm going to be getting rid of. I feel like I'm very picky already when I purchase romance books because it's not my #1 genre, but there is a couple books that I don't think I'm ever gonna read or return to. But Catherine Center is not one of those. I had a little mix-up where the publisher sent me a finished copy, but I also ended up with a book of the month copy, which I got because when the publisher sends you books, they don't always tell you which book they're sending you, and I would much rather have a finished copy with the sprayed edges. So that's pretty much the reason why I'm getting rid of this one, is because I could have a better edition. I really love Catherine Center. I'm super excited to read this. It looks perfectly summery. I honestly will probably read it in June or July, so still very excited about this. I just don't need 2 copies. Next, we have the Kindred Spirits Supper Club, which I really loved. I honestly think I gave this 5 stars. I flew through this book. It was incredible, and I still plan to read more from this author in the future. I still recommend it to you, especially during spring or summertime, but am I ever going to reread this? Probably not. I remember there just being so much depth to the story. There's a little ghost sidekick, and I love when we have like a little bit of magic weaved into a romance story. Probably never gonna reread this because I just had such a great time reading it for the first time. Next, I have You Have a Match by Emma Lord. It looks like the perfect summer parent trap camp kind of story, but the fact that it's young adult, I just don't jive with young adult romance. I have heard great things about Emma Lord, but I think that if she does have adult books, I would rather go that route at this point. Next, I have She Doesn't Have a Clue by Jenny Elder Moak. I have never heard of this author before, but it is a colorful cast of characters in a cellar full of wine. Anything could happen, from murder to a second chance at love. I feel like if you are a cozy mystery reader, or you love Nancy Drew or Agatha Christie, I feel like this could be the book for you because there seems to be a little bit of romance as well as intrigue, and I think it is set at an estate, it looks like. I was super excited about this one when I got it in the mail because I had never heard of it. We love a finished copy from a publisher, but I haven't seen anyone talk about this, and I'm just not sure if I'm in like a cozy mystery mood. If I am, it is very rare these days. Next, I have a few mystery thrillers, which I have been trying to weed down my mystery thriller shelf because I get to the point where I have so many, but I feel like now that I actually know my mystery thriller taste, and I feel like some of the books that I do have, I'm just like teetering on the fence if I'm gonna like them or not, or I read them and I probably wouldn't reread them. But to start off, we have The Crash. I actually really did enjoy this book. I read it in one day, in one sitting. It was such a great ride, but I will say it's not going to be for everyone because it is very stressful. There's some things that I just didn't like the way it was handled, and it did feel very much like Misery from Stephen King, so I feel like there was nothing new in this book, but I feel like everything I just said is very typical of Freida McFadden. I'm still going to pick up her books because they're so bingeable and fun. It was a fun time for winter, but I don't think I'm going to going to be rereading it. Next I have The Younger Wife by Sally Hepworth, which, can we talk about Sally Hepworth? Because I don't think she has a book coming out this year and I need her to write something else. I absolutely love her. She weaves family drama into suspense so seamlessly. I absolutely adore her for that. This book was very good. I did enjoy it, but again, I'm just never going to reread it. It is signed in my name though, which is why I'm debating keeping it. I did go to an author event and she's been one of my favorite authors I've ever met before. She's so sweet. If she does write a new book, I will just have to put that new book in place of this one on my shelf. Next, I have an author that I like. I don't love her. Will I continue to read from her? Probably, but I have In a Dark Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, and I also have The It Girl. Two of Ruth Ware's backlists that I thought I would have read by now. Still haven't read them, so I personally would rather go to the library for these. She writes a little bit more domestic suspense, and I prefer a little bit more psychological or like a locked room type of mystery. But don't worry, this is not me giving up on Ruth Ware. I'm still gonna read other books by her. Same thing kind of goes for Lisa Jewell. I got this book very cheap and I thought it was summery, so every single summer I look at this book and I'm like, okay, this is a summer, I'm gonna read it, and then I heard it's not actually summery even though there's a pool very clearly on the front. So now I'm just not as motivated to read this one. I really do love Lisa Jewell. Sometimes I'm in the mood for a good drama. I'm still gonna read Lisa Jewell's new book. I'm very excited for it, but this is just a backlist that I don't feel the need to own. Another author that I think I may have actually given up is Kate Alice Marshall. I hate to say it, but her last two thrillers she's put out, I've read them. One I DNF'd, one I finished, and I gave 2 stars. So as much as I absolutely loved Rules for Vanishing, I also am going to get rid of this one because I'm never going to reread it. I feel like this is one of the first books I ever read that was kind of in the horror genre. It was so scary. The audio narration was great. I still recommend it, but I feel like this was a one-hit wonder for me with her. She has written at lightning speed since, but I don't know, I have not been able to find that feeling with this book again in anything that she's put out recently. But I'm not going to keep forcing myself to try to love authors if I actually honestly don't. Just because everybody else loves something doesn't mean that you have to love it too. Now another author I really would love to try is Alex Finley, Every Last Fear. I think this was his first book, but I recently got Parents Weekend, which I believe is his newest release, and I think I'm going to start with that one. I may work myself back to his backlist, but I reread this synopsis and this just doesn't sound like anything special. Like, I hate to say it, but I know he's very popular for a reason and I want to find out why, but I just don't know if this book specifically is going to be for me. It sounds more like a detective story. That's definitely not my vibe. I also have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I have The Maidens and The Fury, which I did love, but this book I'm never going to reread. The plot twist is like one of the plot twists that will always be memorable and stand out to me. This is one of the very first thrillers I have ever read in my entire life. I am going to continue to read his books, but at some point I just don't feel the need to own all of his books. Mystery thrillers I will read once and never read again, so that's pretty much a big reason why I almost always get rid of them, unless they're like a favorite author. Speaking of favorite authors, we have Neil Shusterman's All Better Now. You're probably wondering, you just said it was your favorite author, why are you getting rid of this? I honestly don't know. I loved the Scythe series. That is one of my all-time favorite series. It got me back into reading. I have tried a couple of his books since then, and I've given them like 2 or 3 stars. So I think it's safe to say maybe that was just a one-hit wonder series. Maybe I was just in the mood for it. And I'm just scared that if I read this, it's just not going to be the same. I keep trying his books, but they're just not the same. I also have Goodnight Beautiful by Amy Molloy. This sounds very domestic thrillery, very drama, and even though it's very short, something about her books just don't sound like they're my cup of tea. Even though this book sounds juicy, I don't feel like it's going to be anything groundbreaking. So I think I'm going to pass on this one. I might read something from her in the future, but I also haven't seen her write anything lately. So anyways, if it's a domestic thriller, it's not really my cup of tea. Same goes for Cutting Teeth by Chandler Baker. This is about suburban moms whose babies turn into vampires, and I don't know what I think about that. I feel like because I'm not a mom, I might not be able to relate to a lot of the topics talked about in this book. It's kind of like a social commentary, and I feel like social commentary horror is definitely not my vibe. So I might end up getting this from the library, but I feel like there's probably other fantasy vampire stories that I'm a little bit more interested in. So as funny and fun and entertaining as this book sounds, I can get it somewhere else at some point in time. Last but not least, I have The House in the Pines by Anna Reyes, and I'm just now noticing a little bit of a pattern. I have picked up several Reese's Book Club thrillers. Maybe there's something about her book club that I just don't jive with. I think this has to do with a girl named Maya who's a high school student, and other than that, I don't know. It sounds kind of like a small town mystery. I feel like it was popular when it first came out, but since then I haven't seen much about it. Well friends, thank you for joining me for this little impromptu book unhaul. Like I said, was getting to the point where it was just getting out of hand. I think I might potentially be purchasing bookshelves that have a back and sides to them. But that's another reason why I'm like unhauling, is I'm trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing with my books. And I'm kind of ready to just have things a little bit more organized. So I feel like this unhaul is definitely gonna help me organize things in my brain a little bit better. But like I said, if you guys are interested in any of these books, definitely check out my Panko bookstore. So if you see anything you like, definitely go ahead and check that out. But thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video.